A sukkah is a sacred booth. This is an extremely old agricultural tradition. And like many things, well, so let me ask you this. What do you need to celebrate Sukkot? First and foremost. A sukkah. What's a sukkah?
Three-sided building where you can see the stars.
A what?
Three-sided building and you can see the stars.
Okie dokie. Three-sided building where you can see the stars. Like most things in Judaism, there are arguments about what constitutes a three-sided building. What constitutes a wall? Right? It needs three walls. We're in a sukkah, as you can see around us, where for reasons of wind, we only built, Steve only put the wall halfway up on this side. But in order for it to be a wall, we put in this netting. So if you try to walk through that part, you'll get stuck in the netting, like a fly in a spider web, and you'll just sort of stick there, we think. Anyway, so it's three walls, right? But what can you use to make a wall? Right? This is a great question. What can you use to make the wall of a sukkah? Does anybody know what the range of stuff is? What do you usually use?
Palm trees.
Palm trees, that's for the roof. But what about the walls?
Can you use sheets?
You can use sheets. You could use straw bales. You could use wood. You could use all kinds of solid material for the walls. But the Talmud, Babylonian Talmud and the Jerusalem Talmud, like to ask these really weird outside questions to determine, like in a law school, what the absolute boundary of what a wall is would be. So they ask, well, in Talmud and Sukkah 23a, what if you want to build a sukkah and you have an elephant? Can an elephant, I'm not kidding, can an elephant serve as the wall of a sukkah? Slide 2, please. Now this sounds at first absurd, but you figure a sukkah needs to be tall and strong, and maybe you're traveling with your caravan and you have an elephant on hand. But what if the elephant walks away? As you can see, the elephant just takes off and the sukkah collapses. Get a camel. So here's where not bad, get a camel, not a bad plan. But here is where this intersection comes between tradition and imagination, where logic, rabbinic logic, meets with story and kind of childlike wonder, where you can even kind of picture some rabbi doodling in the margin of her parchment. Okay, let's see, sukkah, let's see, what if you make the wall out of people? What if there's a bunch of people standing around and they're holding the roof? Is that okay? Yes, that's okay. Yeah, no, that's okay for sukkah. Kosher. Sukkah made of people? Fine. Totally kosher. But what about an elephant? Kosher? Question mark. Maybe. Okay. So here's what it says, basically. The wall needs to remain a wall. It needs to remain where it is. And the elephant might run off. So the best thing to do is to chain the elephant in its place. Slide 3, please. There's a sad elephant chained to, these are all hypothetical, remember, no one ever tried, I don't know if anyone ever tried to do this. Here's a sad elephant chained in a sukkah. It's being used as a wall. Very sad situation for the elephant. So this year, this story is read, it's a bit absurd, but this year I want to read it from the elephant's point of view. So imagine being an elephant. You're massive, you're capable, you're powerful. You can uproot trees. You could, if you were standing as the wall of a sukkah, move at any moment, but you don't. You've been tied to a post with a simple flimsy chain and a manacle around your leg. But you've decided not to move. You've stopped trying to move. Now you serve as a wall. You're steady, you're silent, you're dependable. You've become the part of someone else's structure. They're celebrating their holiday at your expense because of your personal constraint. Around you, people sing and dance, and they shake the weird plant things and the lemons with the weird stem on the end. And they celebrate their freedom, but you are standing still. You might be strong enough to carry the world on your back as an elephant, but You've been told you can't move and you have a chain around your leg. So I want to go over now to a story used in psychology classrooms around the world. It's called the chained elephant. Does anybody know about the chained elephant? Anyone heard this story before? Okay. So the chained elephant story goes like this. You have an elephant. You need to train an elephant to be, you need to make it stay put. And how do you do that? Elephant's very big and very strong. What you do is you take an elephant as a baby and you, next slide please. You take an elephant as a baby, says this story, and you put a manacle around its leg and a chain, and it's too small to move. Oh, it's too small to break the chain. So it gets this idea in its head that it can't break away from the chain because it's too strong. And when the elephant grows up, the trainer uses the same weak chain. The elephant could easily break the chain, but is bound only in its mind by this chain and cannot break it in its physical life. The chain is not a physical chain, it's a mental chain now, an internalized chain that restricts the elephant's movements. This is what psychologists call learned helplessness. It's the idea that if you try and fail often enough, you stop trying altogether. To quote a classic Simpsons episode, trying Lisa is the first step towards failure. So, I think about this tragedy of our elephants in our Sukkah example. It does not realize it could simply break the chain, throw off the structure that is built to benefit other people at its expense, and walk free. Next slide, please. 500 years ago, French philosopher Etienne de la Boetie wrote a small book with a major question at its heart. Why do so many people obey so few? And remember, he was writing in the time of monarchy. He called this voluntary servitude, the strange way that human beings can become accustomed to limiting thoughts and restrictions imposed by others until they begin to cooperate with their own opposition. Like the chained elephant, we as a society keep standing still, stuck in place, because stillness is what we know. We don't believe we can move. We don't believe we can break the chains and make change in the world around us. These chains that bind us might be chains of comfort. They might be chains of habit. They might even be chains of fear. We think, as we sit here in these mental chains, that that's just the way life is. That's the way things are. We live in a society now that trains us to underestimate our own strength. We're told over and over again from the time we're young, you should vote, but really, you can't change politics. You have to work and you can't afford to rest and relax and recreate with your family and friends. And in life, you just can't make a difference. Your satisfaction is impossible and you cannot make a difference. And somewhere after we've internalized these beliefs from the outside world around us or from older generations, we stop realizing that we have the strength to break free of these restrictions that exist in our minds. We stop pulling against them. We stop tugging against these restrictions. We stay put. We accept the limits and limitations handed to us by the institutions where we studied, by our history and by our own anxieties. Many of these limitations are not real. They're made up of our own assumptions, our fear of what would happen if we took just a single step forward. Would that chain snap? Or would it stay on our leg, and would we still be bound? And the fear that we might still be bound keeps us from struggling at all. Next slide, please. As we humans strive for permanence in our buildings and in our lives, Sukkot reminds us that structures, physical structures, can be temporary, and even these mental structures and chains can be temporary. They can, in fact, be cast off. We can molt like a caterpillar, is it that molts? What molts? Moth. We can shed these restrictions, these limiting beliefs that we may have. We leave the sturdy homes that we live in and we sit in this fragile booth. And it reminds us that all of this stuff, all these structures are temporary. And if we sit under a roof like this and it rains and we see the stars, we call this holy. This sense of temporariness here, this sense that this can be put up and taken down is holy. Because the sukkah is not sacred because it is strong. It is sacred for its impermanence. Because everything we build, even our fears can be dismantled. From the elephant's point of view, the freedom can come either from violently breaking the chains and destroying the sukkah, or recognizing that it is free to leave or could choose to participate in the joy of Sukkot as part of the sukkah. It could choose to stay where it is of its own volition, but it has to be of its own volition. Next slide, please. So for us too, we are stronger than we think we are. This Sukkot, may we see the ways that we have become like the chained elephant, standing still, mistaking habit and limitation for restriction, and safety for a sense of purpose in our lives. May we test the chains that hold us, and may we tug harder against them each day. And may we find, as part of our Sukkah, freedom, purpose, and joy. Shabbat Shalom and Hag Sameach.